All right, thanks for everyone that's joined us today, and we could get started. So, our climate action plan for the Chicago region showed that building energy is the largest source of emissions in our region, even greater than transportation. And you might remember that in our climate action plan, it offered mitigation strategies on how local governments can lead by example. They can encourage others to take specific actions, and they can also enact policies that require action. So, for the issue that we're discussing today, requiring um, governments to reduce building energy use, local governments can lead by measuring their municipalities' building performance, and they can compare that to similar buildings. Communities can also encourage other organizations to do the same, possibly through a friendly competition. And in addition, municipalities can enact policies that require building owners to report how much energy was consumed or to meet targets to reduce energy use. And before we released our climate action plan in 2021, our Greenest Region Compact sustainability pledge suggested that municipalities track and benchmark energy consumption through Energy Star Portfolio Manager. We're happy to cover Energy Star Portfolio Manager today for the first time at an Environment Committee meeting. And as we'll hear from our first speaker, it's an exciting time to be talking about Portfolio Manager because they're undergoing the biggest upgrade in a decade, and they're looking for your feedback. Leslie Cook is our first speaker, and she's been with the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency's Energy Star Buildings program for 17 years and is the team lead for EPA's Portfolio Manager tool. And as a fun fact, Leslie is a native Midwesterner, and one of her hobbies is backyard beekeeping. So with that, I'll turn it over to Leslie.
Thank you, Cheryl, and thank you so much for everyone for joining us. And I also hope that you are all well and safe and sound after the storms that went through. As a native Midwesterner, I remember these storms well. So I will go ahead and pull up my slide deck. I'm very excited to talk with you all today. And I will just make sure that we've got this pulled up properly. Cheryl, let me know if that looks good to you.
Okay, yeah, it looks good.
Great. Okay, and I think we've got a couple polling questions that we've prepared that Cheryl will help us with, and also if you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand or drop them in the chat. But as I go through, what I wanted to share with you all today is first a quick overview of our Energy Star Portfolio Manager tool for anyone who either is not familiar or has not used it for a while. Just a quick overview of our Energy Star 1 through 100 score as well. And then talk through some outreach and recognition opportunities that we offer through EPA Energy Star, and then the resources that we have available. Everything I'm going to discuss today is available for, cost-free as a federal program through EPA. And I was really excited and very encouraged by what Edith and Cheryl shared with me about your environmental sustainability plans and specifically working together as a group to tackle building energy use. So I'm really happy to be here today. So the first thing you can do, if you haven't, your municipality, your school district, all of the organizations, public and private sector who own or manage buildings can join as an Energy Star partner. So I did want to lead with this. If you have not joined, it's a very nice way for you to have sort of top level buy-in. And the partnership is voluntary. You are saying that we're going to strive to manage our energy use and reduce it and use Energy Star tools. You are not beholden to any of those things. We're not going to come checking, but it is a nice way to sort of put the flag in the ground. And you can also use the Energy Star partner logo. We have a number of hundreds of municipalities and states that have joined, and they generally get the sign-on from top management, such as a mayor or a governor. So that's the first thing that you might want to consider if you have not done so yet. So next, let's go into what we offer through EPA's Energy Star Buildings program. And we are the Buildings and Plants program, and that's the manufacturing plants, not the green kind, although we love those as well. We have a number of resources. Our mission is to deliver environmental benefits and financial value through superior energy efficiency. That environmental benefits piece is becoming so much more important as we are all sharing the same goal of reducing our carbon footprint. And Cheryl, thank you for mentioning the proportion of our environmental footprint that comes from commercial buildings in your introduction. So we do have tools like Portfolio Manager and some other suite of tools for industrial plants that help you measure and assess the performance of buildings in the existing buildings in operation, and also buildings in the design phase. We've got a lot of tools to help plan and motivate and recognize improvement and the recognition opportunities. I'll talk a bit more later on in our presentation, but we do like to recognize top performers. And that is something that we found that municipalities can really leverage, not only when you want to show your stakeholders that you are going above and beyond to operate top performing buildings, but also to encourage others within your communities to strive to earn the Energy Star for commercial buildings, for instance, and give them some extra recognition locally. So the value of benchmarking, I know this is a crowd who probably doesn't need a benchmarking 101 sort of course, but I always like to start here because it really does get back to the simple exercise of comparing your buildings to other similar buildings and having an understanding based on actual utility, energy, and water consumption and performance of your building. And our Portfolio Manager tool allows you to do this. You can see some numbers on these buildings over here on the right, and that represents the Energy Star score. If your building is a scoreable building type, that number allows you to really quickly identify under, mid, and top performers. But we like to remember that any building can be benchmarked regardless of your eligibility to get the 1 through 100 score. And I've got some examples of how looking at other metrics like weather normalized total energy use or site energy use or your greenhouse gas intensity, for instance, all buildings can earn metrics like those. And we have found that a public portfolio that goes through that exercise, there are a lot of valuable information that comes out of that as you are planning or implementing your energy efficiency upgrade strategies. So going through this exercise of taking, simple information about your buildings and the utility consumption, energy, or if you choose to do so also as well, water and waste and materials. It allows you to evaluate your portfolio-wide performance and understand the differences between your facilities, and perhaps you want to group them in facility types and then see what the variation is and identify those low performers and go and focus your resources where they really need to be focused. And then also identify the top performers and see, what best practices are going on in those top performing buildings, which genius energy managers, facility managers do you need to go tap into in those facilities to help maybe train up the rest of your staff. If you're using our 1 through 100 score, you're able to compare your energy performance to or you're able to compare your national to a national median for most buildings, in addition to the Energy Star score. Sorry, I misspoke there. And then we wanted to make sure that, really continuous benchmarking is our best practice that we recommend, not just going in and using Portfolio Manager, getting in your 12 months of data in to get a snapshot, but continue to track the impact of your energy, water, and waste management strategies as they move ahead so that you can always keep a pulse check on how your results are doing. And then if you wish, report them out to your stakeholders. So Portfolio Manager is our online software tool. It is a secure federal tool. It's your account and your account only. We do not share any information from your account. You set it up yourself. We have a lot of stringent federal IT security guidelines that we adhere to. So that's always good to know. You were able to assess your energy, water, and waste and materials. And by waste and materials, I mean, municipal landfill materials and your recycled rates, your composting, and then also your diversion rates, things like that. So if you didn't know about that piece of Portfolio Manager, which is a little less known, we do have that available for you and your community members as well. Like I said, tracking your changes over time is a critical part of this exercise to make it the most valuable for you. We do offer the 1 through 100 score for many building types through Portfolio Manager. And then, of course, you can apply for Energy Star certification for any building that scores a 75 or higher on our 1 through 100 scale. And that's all done through the Portfolio Manager interface available at the website here. So we've seen continuous growth since we have launched this tool. I think it was, 1999. We looked back at the year 2023, and just in that calendar year, we have over 320,000 buildings nationwide actively using Portfolio Manager. That's not a cumulative number. That is the amount of buildings that are actively benchmarking year over year. And we see that growing. Grew about 20 or 30,000 buildings in 1 year. It's about 25% of the U.S. floor space. So this really is it's a nationally recognized kind of best practice. So hopefully, if you're doing an outreach campaign within your community, some or most of the building owners and managers and service providers that work in this area have heard of this tool. 50, it's actually more than that now, state and local jurisdictions across the country do have mandatory benchmarking policies, which Cheryl alluded to. The city of Chicago being one, I'm sure you're well aware of that. This is where they are have a policy where buildings of a certain size, it's normally the larger commercial, sometimes also multifamily buildings, that are required to use Portfolio Manager and then report some of their key metrics to the jurisdiction every year. Again, we're a voluntary program, and the use of our tool is voluntary as far as EPA is concerned, but some municipalities, many of them, have taken the step to use it as a platform to implement these policies. And then we also have a partnership with Canada through Natural Resources Canada, which is why you can benchmark en français, using the French interface if you wish. I've got another language update coming soon. Really, we see the space of Portfolio Manager within this ecosystem of software tools and other resources to help buildings become more sustainable as really an engine to take simple information about your building, including your ongoing utility consumption, and turn it into important performance indicators. And this is just a sample. We've got hundreds of metrics that are available for you, and you can find and pick and focus in on the ones that are important for you. You can see a selection of the key energy, financial, renewable energy, and sort of comparative metrics on the screen here. All of these are calculated for you once you put in your building information and ongoing utility use. I think your, let's say, total avoided greenhouse gas emissions from RECs is something that you might be interested in. That could be a complicated thing to do outside of a software tool like Portfolio Manager, but we are here to hopefully make it easier so you can take that information and turn it into action. So our 1 through 100 score, I did want to pause a bit. That is one metric that is unique to Portfolio Manager. It is one simple number, and it's a very, we think, understandable metric to help people understand where their building lies on a 1 through 100 scale. Our score is available for many building types across the country, and it allows you to take your, let's say, office building and compare it to all peer office buildings across the country. We normalize for your location through energy, through weather normalization and climate factors that are factored into the score, and also some operating characteristics. So let's say one office building has a law firm as the main tenant, and they're kind of 24/7 operators. And one office is perhaps a city hall that has more of a 9 to 5 operating trend. And so we are able to normalize for those things so that you're not penalized for the business that's going on inside of these buildings. So, if you're below 25, we would say you're a low performer. That's an indication you really want to focus on that. Around 50 to 75, you're kind of in the mid range, and then 75 or higher would indicate top performance, and you would hopefully go ahead and earn the Energy Star certification for your building. This is the collection of building types that are able to earn the Energy Star score. We would love to put an Energy Star score on every building type out there, but we are sort of limited by the data that these scores are built upon. Many of them are, the scores are built on the CBECS Commercial Energy Consumption Building Survey that the Department of Energy conducts. And wherever there is adequate data for us to build a model and release a score, we do that. We also do some of our own surveys. Right now, we are going to start conducting a national multifamily survey to refresh our multifamily building score. So you can see here, I'm sure, this is a lot of the key buildings in your communities. Many of these buildings are, within probably your own public portfolio within your municipality. And because we didn't have time for a tour today, which is perfectly fine, we've got places for you to go to get those tours on demand whenever you want it. I just wanted to show you the current interface. And, this is just, if you kind of look through here, this is my training account where you've got all of your buildings that are in Portfolio Manager at your fingertips. You can customize this dashboard to see the metrics that are important to you. And then, you also can go through and run some custom reports, or you can use our own sort of pre-populated performance reports that we have in Portfolio Manager that will help you sort of gather up all the indicators that are important for you to either use for your own evaluations internally for your portfolio, or create reports that help you share your results with your constituents. This is also where you go to apply for recognition, and where you go to share your facilities with other Portfolio Manager account holders if you wish to do so. And that sharing and functionality is quite important when we think about the infrastructure that might be needed to, let's say, launch an energy efficiency campaign. Participants would be able to share their buildings voluntarily if they wish to participate, and then you'd be able to evaluate the data and reward whichever sort of milestones you wish to reward. So we think it's really important to highlight that for cities and municipalities, because that infrastructure kind of opens up a lot of activities that could involve your community members. We even talked with Cheryl and Edith a little bit. We've had other community groups like yours. I'm thinking of the Washington, D.C. Council of Government. They used our sharing capabilities in Portfolio Manager to have the whole Council of Governments share into a common account. And then they were able to get a broader picture of how this area's public buildings were performing for their own evaluation purposes. Like, they could compare all the fire stations from all of the numerous municipalities in the DC area and say, what's the variation here? And can we get some more idea sharing going where we can find those top performing buildings? This is a little zoom in on the reporting part of Portfolio Manager. So there are a number of activities here. We want it to be easy for you to go in and grab the the performance indicators, the results that you wish to use to analyze or share. This is also where you can create custom reports and share it among other participants in a group exercise or competition. And then all of our you can see some of our scorecards and progress and goals report, statement of energy performance, all of our sort of standardized documents and reports are available right there as well. Here's a little example of what one of our partners, Philadelphia, was able to do with their benchmarking results. And this was from a Greenworks Philadelphia benchmarking report. I've got the link here. this was the first year that they reported out to the public. I think this was back in 2014. I wanted to show the first year because I think it was the first time they, opened up to the public, how the energy of their municipal buildings stack up. The first pie chart over there is, the energy footprint of the various public facility types. Notice this isn't based on the Energy Star score. It's not limited to that. It really was just looking at where are we using energy most in our public facilities. And then they looked by comparing all those buildings to the national median, which is available for all buildings in Portfolio Manager. The second pie chart was, showing of all of these public buildings, how do we look at a very high distance in terms of underperforming, mid performers, or overperformers? And you can see, they were showing that a number of their public facilities were under the national median, that also sort of generates internal and external motivation to get to work and say, okay, we've got some opportunities here to reduce our carbon footprint and reduce our energy bills. And the interface that I have been showing you is about to get a major upgrade. And thanks, Cheryl, for plugging that at the beginning. This is an effort that is supported through funding from the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022. There are a lot of shared goals here. And one is to advance the goal of reducing greenhouse gas emissions and from commercial multifamily buildings. So as that was an objective of this program, we received some good amount of resources to perform a major upgrade on Portfolio Manager. The last time we did that was 2013. So it's more than time to do this. And we're extremely excited. We have been doing a lot of work already. This is a multi-year project. Some of the main goals that we have for the upgrade are to modernize and refresh the user interface. So improve navigation, more modern look and feel, better technologies. Also underneath Portfolio Manager, we're lifting up the hood and looking at technology upgrades that we can deploy to improve the performance of the overall system for everybody using the tool, and also set the tool up for the scalability, the growth that we plan for in the future. Some of the new bells and whistles, in addition to the modernization, we are going to be adding refrigerant tracking as a voluntary activity if you wish to do so. We are really focused on expanding our greenhouse gas emissions and green power tracking functionality. We are also very focused on enhancements that are going to hopefully help streamline the benchmarking process and reporting process for buildings that are covered by benchmarking or building performance standards. And also we're working with municipalities that have those policies in place to talk with them about what are some of the features and enhancements that we could deploy to help them implement those programs. This is just a sample. We've got a lot of goals, but the last one I wanted to share, I'm very excited about. We are offering a Spanish language option now, and that is actually already available in the tool. We're sort of soft launching that between now and fall. And by soft launch, we're like tweaking the language where we can find that there may be some better translation paths, but it is available in Spanish now. So if you want to try that out, you can, and please let others know. And you can follow along with our progress at the new webpage that we have that's available here. And not just follow along, but we're going to keep this comment box open. If you've got feedback you want to share, you want to see something that Portfolio Manager does today, you wish it did it better, you've got a pain point, your team is using it, or perhaps you wish to see some future functionality you don't find in Portfolio Manager, we are all ears, and we're going to keep that channel open throughout the duration of this project. So next we have I wanted to highlight some of our outreach and recognition opportunities for you, for your own portfolio, and also as you're reaching out to those other organizations in your communities. So of course, we've got Energy Star certification for your building. We've talked about that. You can also earn Designed to earn the Energy Star score. Portfolio Manager and its sister tool, Target Finder, will provide a score for buildings in the design phase based on the information that is known at the design phase about the building type, the energy use it is intended to use. And then for those that score soon to be 80 or higher, it used to be 75. We're about to make the change to increase that for design to earn the Energy Star to 80. You can earn that for recognition. We have Energy Star Partner of the Year. That is for our, we've got, we say Partner of the Year. We actually have 200 organizations that won last year for their accomplishments, but those are for those that go above and beyond. If you're interested, you can find more about that on our website. We have tenant recognition for tenant spaces, and also the Energy Star Challenge for the industrial and manufacturing sector. So lots to work with here in terms of rewarding those that are doing the hard work. We also, if you are looking to use the platform of a competition as a means to recognize those that are doing the hard work, we do have a competition guide, and this is based on our own national building competition that we ran for about 5 years or so, quite successfully, got a lot of really good activity around that. So we turned what we learned and also from what we learned from competitions that we saw launching around the country and kind of distilled that into a guidance document that's pretty easy to get through. It's not too long, but you can see there's a lot of sections here on setting goals and how to define the playing field, recognizing your participants, etc. So that is available as sort of a framework for a competition if you wish to go that route. And also along the lines of, voluntarily, encouraging these types of activities. This is sort of a fun way to package up what is not always seen as fun, right? An energy audit, an energy assessment can get a little dry. It's very important. So we packaged up what we call a treasure hunt in a resource that's available for you that others can use or you could use within your own municipal buildings, but it's a guide to really dig in. It's not an energy audit, but it is more of a checklist type of assessment to find opportunities for savings, which is why we call it a treasure hunt. So that's available there for you too. And then I'm just taking a time check. I'm going to go through the next slides fairly quickly, but I did want to make sure that you all knew about our new recognition coming soon. This is also supported through the Inflation Reduction Act. This is the first new recognition opportunity for existing buildings that we've launched since certification. This is in addition to Energy Star certification. That's not going anywhere. But NextGen is something that we're launching. Our target is by the end of this year or early in 2025. And the idea is that we want to recognize efficient buildings that are on the path to zero emissions. We wanted to strive to keep this recognition fairly simple and also leverage Energy Star Portfolio Manager. So all of the eligibility checks and application will be done through Portfolio Manager like it is for certification. And there are 3 things that we were trying to do with this new recognition. We want to achieve, we want the building owners to achieve top energy performance, just like certification. But then on top of energy performance, we want to recognize those that are either generating or procuring renewable energy sources as part of their energy mix, and then also those that are reducing their on-site emissions. So again, that's really the 3 elements of on the path to zero emissions. So first, the efficiency piece is the buildings that will be eligible for NextGen will be, you need to be at least eligible for Energy Star certification as a baseline. The renewable energy piece is generating or procuring 30% or more of your energy mix from renewable resources. And then we also have greenhouse gas emission targets based on your building types to recognize those that are reducing their on-site emissions. And you can find more about this recognition framework at the website on the slide. Okay, so what do we offer for those that are just getting started, want to encourage others to do so? We've got a lot of cost-free training that are available, weekly live webinars, a lot of quick YouTube videos for if you want to just see a task and get a quick training and go on with your day, and lots of off-the-shelf step-by-step training materials as well. We also have a help desk that is always available. We've got a dedicated team first, we've got a very large and I think helpful FAQ library that is available on how to use Portfolio Manager, what are all the bits and pieces mean within the tool. And then we also have a team that you can email for direct support. We've got a utility data map to show you where utilities are across the country that provide benchmarking data for their customers. And that's, you can zoom in on the map. You can also type in your zip code and see who is providing that. That's a growing database as more utilities come online with those services. And then we also have almost 400 at this point, third-party providers, energy service providers, bill payment platforms, et cetera, that exchange data with Portfolio Manager through our web services so that the data from the utility companies are flowing through these platforms using our Energy Star APIs into Portfolio Manager, and then they're able to grab those metrics back into these platforms for their clients and customers using the APIs. And this is certainly a big part of our Energy Star benchmarking activity. So those entities are available to help you kind of cut down that burden of energy use, data management. And then finally, I wanted to highlight sort of a new resource we have, which is called our rebate finder, and then a Utility Genius rebate finder. So first is a rebate finder for commercial products that have earned the Energy Star. So these are Energy Star eligible products, not buildings. And then we also have a searchable database of utility rebates for commercial projects, and that's available on our website as well. So I did want to wrap up with my contact information. If you wish to get more information, ask a question, let us know what you're up to, and then also our main websites are listed here. I'll go ahead and stop sharing, turn it back over to Cheryl.
Okay. Oh, thanks, Leslie. Yeah, there's a lot of good resources in your presentation, and what we'll do is we'll put some of those links on our Environment Committee meeting page, such as the treasure hunt kit and the utility data map, so people can find those after the meeting. So thank you. And actually, before we move on to the next presentation, we would just like to do a poll to see how many people are using Energy Star Portfolio Manager. And if you can just if you see the poll, and if you don't see it, you can click on polls quizzes, which might be at the bottom of your screen. And it looks like we do have some people answering that. And just as a little background on the question, when we created the Greenest Region Compact around, we started that around 2015 or so, we did know at that time who was using Energy Star Portfolio Manager, but we know that several years have passed, so we thought we would just see who's using it today. And we'll give it a few more seconds for people to answer the question. Okay, and for those that are watching the recording later and won't be able to see the poll, it looks like many people actually have not used it, but we have 11% have and 11% their community has, but they have not personally used it. Some are not sure, might need to check with other staff members, and 21% are considering using it. Okay, and then we just have one more question on that. Okay, so would you be interested in the caucus hosting an Energy Star Portfolio Manager contest? We did hear from one Environment Committee member who said it would be nice to have a friendly competition to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And so we're just checking with everyone else on the committee to see, is that something that we should try to host? We could maybe do prizes like a pizza party or something. I'm not sure. We can collaborate on the prizes if that's something everyone's interested in. And looks like I think that might be all the answers we're getting, so I'll share that. And it looks like Yeah, it's kind of split, many 42% said yes, 47% maybe. Might need to check with someone at your community about that. And a few maybe not. You might already be doing that without the need for a contest. So yeah, thanks for letting us know. And let me just stop that sharing. Okay. So now that we've learned about Portfolio Manager, let's see how one community is actually using the tool. We have two speakers from Will County who will give us a live demo. Brianna Moore is an energy and conservation specialist for the Resource Recovery and Energy Division of Will County's Land Use Department. She improves energy and water efficiency through the design and implementation of Will County's 2021 Energy and Conservation Plan. And as a fun fact, she lives in Naperville with her twin sister. We'll also hear from Johanna Strohschein, and she's worked at Will County for the last 5 months as an energy and conservation specialist. She studied environmental sustainability at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. And her fun fact, she was born and raised in St. Charles, which I know if Mayor Burns were here, there would probably be a joke about that with it being next to Geneva. So we'll have to let Mayor Burns know for the next meeting. So thank you. So I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much for your introduction and to Leslie for your expertise on Energy Star. I'll get started while Brianna pulls up our, there you go, screen. So yeah, we work for Will County in the Resource Recovery and Energy Division of the Land Use Department. Our role as energy and conservation specialists is largely to track energy and water consumption in our county buildings and to ensure that our natural and fiscal resources are being used responsibly. So we use Energy Star's Portfolio Manager to record this data. Previously, our utility data was recorded in physical binders with paper bills and written notes. In 2013, our division started recording the bills into Portfolio Manager as well. And then in 2022, we completely shifted over to digital tracking. This helped us to reduce our paper waste in the office and allows for data to be more easily shared across internal departments. We're able to keep consolidated record of electric, natural gas, and water use, along with the associated costs. And it helps us with larger tracking for the county and, such as reporting on our state of the county address and other plans. We're able to have these records in a viewable format, which makes it much easier to identify opportunities for improved efficiency along with potential billing errors or maybe a faulty meter, something like that. The ability to download the building data into Excel or other data programs has made it much simpler to calculate our greenhouse gas emissions and establish a baseline for reducing those emissions. We're able to share usage of over 30 buildings directly with the Department of Energy, which we do as part of our commitment to the Better Buildings and the Better Climate Challenges, which set a goal to reduce our emissions 50% in 10 years. So that pretty much just an introduction to why we use Portfolio Manager. And now I'll pass it off to Brianna to give a brief demonstration.
Hey, thanks, Johanna. As Johanna said, my name is Brianna. I'm also an energy conservation specialist, and I'll just go through a few of the pages here, at least as we can see as a community member with the buildings that we track. So what you see on the screen is just the landing page. We've got the list of a lot of the different buildings that we track here on the landing page. This is actually just a subset of the total number of buildings that we have data on in Portfolio Manager. This is a subset called active properties. So these are just buildings that we have that are currently open and functioning, but we actually have 50 total properties stored in Portfolio Manager, and a lot of those extra buildings are ones that we used to have and that at least at this point have been decommissioned, demolished, or otherwise are not currently functional. But we can still hold on to a lot of that historical data in case we want to crunch some numbers for any kinds of reporting that we do. It's really just nice to have all of this information easily available all in one place, but we can also consolidate different views to see just what we want to see that's current. So this is again the list of active buildings. We did have to add each and every one of them individually on our own. And so if you wanted to see, for example, what it looks like to add a property, it's pretty simple. I've got the add a property function over here, and I don't think Zoom will let me go to my, oh, no, I can just do it this way. So there's just a few things that you generally would need to have access to if you were to create a new building. Things like the property type. So as Leslie talked about earlier, you can enter banks, courthouses, office buildings, residential spaces. There's lots of different categories that you can pick from. You'll also identify if your building is, say, part of a larger building. So if you're renting a space, or if it's just one standalone property that you're trying to enter data for, or if it's a campus of buildings and you want to enter all of those under one property. And then there's also room if you want to indicate that the building is existing, if it's a current building that you're trying to track data for. You can also have a design project. So if you haven't constructed the building, but you're trying to see, well, if a building did function in this way that maybe we're considering building, what might the energy metrics for that look like? Or you can do a test property. I've done that if I just want to try out different functions of Portfolio Manager. Beyond that, there's also additional pages where you can put in further information on a building that you're trying to enter, like the name, the address, square footage, the year it was built, occupancy percentages. Beyond that, also say the percentage of the building that can be heated or cooled, or what the operating hours look like. Really any information that's most useful to get a feel for how the building functions, especially compared to perhaps other buildings, similar buildings around the country. So it's actually not too difficult to add buildings, but we can go ahead and show you what it looks like to work with an existing building. So I'll show you our courthouse that we built in 2020. So this is the same page that you would see for any other building that we have entered into Portfolio Manager. And at least in our county, we primarily make use of the energy and water tabs. So been tracking data for this particular building since it was going under construction back in 2019. At this point, we are tracking several different meters. One of those being the electric meter from the grid. So paying our ComEd bills, how much electricity we're drawing from the grid to run the building. We also have rooftop solar on this building, so we're also able to track how much electricity is being generated by the rooftop system, what's being offset from what we need to take from the grid. We're tracking our natural gas usage in the building, and then also water use in the water tab. But I'll just let you see for the electric grid, just the kinds of data that we keep track of. And this is information we'll usually just take directly from the bills. So the billing dates, so what time period we're looking at with an associated energy usage. For electricity, we keep track of it in kilowatt hours. And then we're also able to track the total cost on that particular bill, how much money we're spending for electricity in this building for a certain period of time. We're also able to include if it's an estimation, and you can see from this building, we've had to do that, especially at the very beginning, since it was undergoing construction. And I know even beyond construction, we had an issue with our bills where electricity from the old courthouse and the new courthouse were consolidated in one bill. So we had to do a bit of math to estimate how much of that electricity we could attribute to the new building versus the old building. But at least we're able to make note of that in case we need to keep in mind that they're estimations versus numbers that we're pretty sure, pretty solid are actual usages. And you can see that we have use for all the data for all those years. So I think the building that goes the farthest back has bills from 2009. So we have lots of data that we're able to keep track of here and make use of. So I could show, say, like the water bill too. We've got usage in cubic feet for water, or maybe it'd be more interesting to see like our solar meter, since we're able to include how much electricity we're consuming on site through our solar panels. All of our electricity from our solar is used on site. We're not exporting any to the grid. And so that's kind of just one place that we can have all of these numbers all together so that if we wanted to compare them with one another, we could look at graphs like these that kind of put them all in one graph, and we can get some idea of what our usage pattern has been over time. If there are any unusual patterns we need to investigate, or if things seem to be operating as they should, we can have some zoomed out view of what all of that looks like. So, and we have similar pages for these for all of the buildings that we've added data for. I think another helpful aspect with Portfolio Manager, at least that we've used, is being able to share all of this data with other partners. So if we work with consultants or with the Department of Energy, as Johanna mentioned that we do with the Better Buildings Challenge, we have the capability to take all of this data, or even just for certain buildings, and we can share that energy usage in a view-only format with other partners so that they can themselves crunch some numbers, maybe do some manipulation for us so that, for example, they can put together really nice pages like these that the Department of Energy has done for our Better Buildings and Better Climate Challenge participation. I know this graph or example that shows how our energy performance has been since 2009. They were able to put together by exporting energy usage data from Portfolio Manager. So that makes it easier for us to collaborate with other entities and to do a lot of that data analysis in partnership with others. I'll also mention really quick that I think Leslie touched upon some of the reporting aspects of things. So if we wanted to get an idea of what it looks like, for example, here, our weather normalized sourced EUI, we're able to look at our entire portfolio of buildings and get kind of a snapshot of what that looks like for our buildings. So that's a pretty nice aspect of it. And we can always export a lot of this data into like Excel spreadsheets. I'll actually try to show you what one of those looks like for our courthouse. It's usually pretty simple. This is just one that I downloaded from the courthouse where we can see the electricity usage from the grid and from solar as well as natural gas. They do give you just straight numbers so that if you wanted to create graphs or do whatever else you want to do with that data, you can do it in Excel or put that into other platforms. So those are a couple of things we've found useful. At this point, I'll go ahead and pass it back to Johanna, so she'll talk more about how we collect data to enter into Portfolio Manager in the first place.
Thanks, Brianna. Yeah, so we mainly are entering data using our utility bills. So energy, water bills, access through utility accounts on ComEd, NICOR. In our case, we use some alternative energy suppliers, so like Constellation or Direct Energy. A big challenge with this is that utilities aren't always able to consolidate all of our buildings under one user profile. So for certain buildings, we have multiple profiles with different logins, and that manage different buildings. So that definitely takes some internal organization to make sure that you have access to all those different accounts. This is sometimes a result of sort of disjointed duties and communication across internal departments, as well as limitations on the utilities end, which can be a major source of data gaps. When we kind of find ourselves looking for access to utility bills that are managed elsewhere, a good place to start is the purchasing department or a property manager. Really, you're just trying to find whoever is paying the bills and see if like they can give you access. Another option, if you're more old-fashioned like us, as many local governments can be, is to investigate your internal records management, especially if you're trying to go back and sort of create your baseline and gather old data. They may have like physical copies stored away somewhere, as well as reaching out to your utilities, contact people, and using that route. Overall, we find the platform to be very useful. Some of the advantages are that it's free, which is always great. Simple and easy to use, very straightforward. You can easily share data with other parties, as we mentioned, and it's really just useful to store many years of data in like one consolidated area, and the ability to compare across different building types. And it's a reliable and secure source, as it's like a federal tool. Some of the downsides that we encounter, especially the way that the county uses it, is that it is highly manual. There are capabilities that we haven't quite unlocked to upload spreadsheets and allow for utilities and other organizations to input data for you. It's somewhat simple in its functions. I imagine that maybe other tools have more advanced visualization and evaluation capabilities when assessing the data that you're kind of reporting. And it enables more reactivity than proactivity. What I mean by that is that we're entering bills like 1 to 6 months after the bill is issued. So if there's like something wrong with our meter, or we notice something strange in the bills, it might be a while before we notice that and are able to act on it. But overall, it's a really great tool, and we recommend that local governments start using it if you're not already. That's all we have. Brianna, if you want to add anything else or take questions.
Thanks for sharing how you're using the tool, and it's very helpful for those that haven't used it to see what you can do with it. And if there's any questions, feel free to add those to the chat. So for our next speakers, yes, it was great to hear how Will County's leading by example and benchmarking their own buildings. And I put our climate action plan, the lead, encourage, enact icons in case you hadn't read our plan. So some local governments, they might also be wondering how to encourage others to benchmark their buildings or how to enact building energy policies, which is what our next speakers will discuss. They'll also cover the technical assistance, tools, and other support that's available to communities that enact building energy policies. And some of you may know our next speakers as our friends from the Advanced Building Energy Efficiency Policies, or the ABEEP task force. Maddie Lippett is a building codes and policy manager at the Midwest Energy Efficiency Alliance, or MEA. She works to improve energy efficiency in buildings in the Midwest by advancing the adoption, implementation, and compliance of energy codes, benchmarking ordinances, and building performance standards. And as a fun fact, she's been scuba diving with humpback whales, which is pretty exciting. Dan Streit is a senior researcher at Slipstream who focuses on community-centered energy and sustainability solutions, municipal energy planning, and clean energy financing. And when Dan isn't working, you might find him out running, biking, or at home baking bread. So I'll turn it over to you two.
All right. Well, thank you, Cheryl, and thank you to the other presenters. This has been really interesting to see how some of these tools and these strategies are being put into play. So this morning, during the first part of our presentation, I'm going to give an overview of benchmarking policies and building performance standards policies. And then Maddie will share more about the ABEEP working group and the RECCE project. But just to provide context, to echo what Cheryl said, we are part of a team that is providing support to members of the caucus, among others, in looking into adopting and implementing advanced building policies, advanced building energy policies, and benchmarking and building performance standards are certainly highlighted within that. So with that, I'm going to move on to the next screen here. So just a minute on Slipstream. We're a nonprofit organization that works to accelerate climate solutions for everyone. We have education and training, program implementation, financing, but the area in which I work is focused on supporting communities on a larger scale and trying to advance, help them move forward with climate commitments, clean energy planning, and other strategies. Maddie for Mia.
Yeah, and like Cheryl said, I'm Maddie Lippitt with MIA, which is a member-based nonprofit organization that covers the 13 states of the Midwest. MIA is also part of a national network of regional energy efficiency organizations, or RIOs, which work through funded partnerships with the US DOE, Department of Energy. As our name suggests, we promote energy efficiency first, in order to optimize energy generation, reduce consumption and emissions, and create jobs in Midwest communities. As the slide shows, we use our various expertise in building policy and other programs to help educate and advise a pretty diverse range of stakeholders. So state and local governments, utility companies and evaluators, contractors, research organizations, community-based orgs. So our reach expands pretty thoroughly throughout our region.
Thanks, Maddie. So with this, let's get started on benchmarking and building performance standards. So these are kind of laying out a sequential order. And already this morning, Leslie provided a fantastic introduction or overview for benchmarking policies, what they are, how portfolio manager can be helpful in the implementation. But since, at least for me, sometimes it's helpful to hear things a couple times, I will go ahead and just reiterate a few of those key aspects. But essentially, a benchmarking policy is set at a municipal or other local government level, and it sets the parameters through which and the requirements for reporting of energy use and sometimes water use as well for commercial buildings. And by commercial, I mean that broadly. So mostly anything that is a non-single family residential property. So this isn't affecting individual homeowners, but is and really can be configured to cover the commercial buildings or larger properties in your area that are right for your community. So the benchmarking policy requires reporting for energy, sometimes water use for each of those buildings, and establishes a reporting cycle. And then building performance standards, or BPS policies, are kind of the next step. And they say, they set a requirement that for these covered buildings, these buildings that are having to report, not only do they have to report, but they have to start getting better. They have to start reducing energy use and sometimes water use over time towards a later goal of certain level of reduction. So this is a map that's effective as of December 2023, so it's fairly current, but it's possible that it's, there may be some updates. Just to orient you to it a little bit, the green pins, as well as the green states, are cities or states that have adopted and implemented building performance standards. The blue or darker pins, as well as the state of California, are ones who have made commitments towards adopting a building performance standard, but have not actually implemented that yet. So we're going to highlight one of those, St. Louis, and to just provide an example of what a BPS policy can look like. St. Louis implemented theirs. They said that in order to cover the portion of their existing building stock that they felt was right, they set a threshold of 50,000 square feet. And it said that the policy applies to all buildings that are greater than or equal to 50,000 square feet. And they decided that the energy use metric that would be applicable for their standard would be the energy use intensity, or another way of thinking of energy use intensity, or EUI, is the amount of energy used in the building per square foot. The policy sets a maximum EUI, or energy per square foot, for various building types. This recognizes that different types of buildings have different needs for energy. And so it isn't comparing a restaurant next to a regular office building or something. And then it can also set up the reporting schedule. And so how frequently is this? Typically, it's not every year, it's every several years. And you might notice that it also incorporates a slightly adapted schedule for affordable multifamily housing, which recognizes some of the different needs that might be applicable there. And then over time, that maximum energy use intensity that is set is going to decrease, and each building can meet that lower EUI by either adapting its operations or by making the building operate more efficiently through upgrading heating and cooling systems, taking care of the building shell, or other changes. So why would a municipality decide to do this? Because you might anticipate that there could be a little bit of opposition sometimes, but for municipalities that have set goals for emissions reductions community-wide over time, or clean energy use over time, this is a strategy that applies to existing buildings, which are a very important part of community-wide energy use. It's the next step beyond benchmarking, having the data and then creating that transparency and then showing progress over time. It's also a fantastic way of stimulating business development and economic activity related to the clean energy sector. This is good for future-proofing local economic development. It will have an influence on designing new buildings, which are going to be aware of the BPS policy and will probably want to design accordingly. And then in general, more efficient buildings are healthier buildings, and that's good for everybody. So this slide gets into more of the details, and I believe we're going to share some of these slides afterwards. So if you want to dig into this in some more detail, you're certainly free to do so. But and I know I'm running a bit short on time, so I'm going to move quickly. I'll focus here that there's a sequence going from the initial preparations to the implementing benchmarking to as a first step, and then moving ahead to outlining and defining what your BPS policy is based on some of what you've learned from the community engagement up front, as well as from benchmarking. And once you've designed that BPS policy, going ahead towards implementation. A few things just to call out is that it's extremely important to design both benchmarking and BPS policies based on the reality of the community. So that's looking at your building stock, at the types of energy use, and then also getting feedback from the community to understand concerns, opportunities, and identify what types of support might be needed to create a successful policy. When implementing benchmarking, I need to determine which buildings are covered, what types of energy, if it's going to be electricity only, electricity and gas. There are delivered fuels that would also be applicable, in setting reporting deadlines, identifying the types of tools that will be needed at the municipal level to enforce this. You're going to be dealing with a lot of data, and then developing an ordinance from that. For BPS policy, identifying which metric will need to decrease over time, whether that's EUI, emissions, something else, and then setting some targets. If you need to decrease, say, 50% by 2050, what are going to be the thresholds to get there in the meantime, and outlining the reporting deadlines. Ready to move on to the implementation. Planning for the long term, but it's good to retain a little bit of ability to pivot and adapt as needed, because certainly the lived experience, you'll want to make sure that you have a way of incorporating that into the actual implementation and guidance of the policy. And then making sure that you have the internal resources as a municipality to manage, and that the property owner community has the resources they need. Lastly, report the results, celebrate success as you see overall energy use within the community decreasing over time. And with that, I'll pass it off to Matt.
Great, thanks. So fortunately, there are a few programs out there to help support municipalities as they try to advance and implement these types of policies. And I am just going to go over a couple of those today. Next slide. Okay, thanks. So this first one is, like Cheryl mentioned, the Advanced Building Energy Efficiency Policy, or ABEEP working group. MIA, Slipstream, and the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus have partnered together and with ComEd to create this ABEEP work group. ComEd is funding the project in order to better understand the potential for advanced building policies in Illinois, including stretch energy codes and also building performance standards. And as part of this project, we have really been working to gain an understanding of how these types of policies would impact the building industry in the state. And also gain a little insight into things like current market conditions, the potential for municipalities to adopt these types of policies, and the potential for improved policy compliance. And so I won't go through each of these goals here. As Dan mentioned, these slides will be shared afterwards, but sort of the overarching goals of this work group is to help municipalities pioneer these types of policies, such as stretch codes and building performance standards, really get them prepared to take action on these building energy policies and have the tools to do so. And then also to collect and provide feedback and guidance to ComEd on the most effective ways that they can support advancement. Next slide. Great. And as part of ABEEP, we not only hold one-on-one meetings with individual municipalities, but we also offer quarterly meetings to all of the participating communities. Past quarterly meetings have entailed things like pretty basic level introductory information, feedback opportunities for municipalities, guest speakers, etc. It's sort of a mixed bag between providing technical assistance and education on the advanced building energy efficiency policies themselves, and also covering like other related topics based on the feedback that we get from the municipalities. For example, we can have a meeting that focuses on updates on the state stretch code adoption. We can also talk about how these policies may affect builders or affordable housing development. And then the one-on-one meetings, as you can imagine, are even more tailored to individual communities' needs. So every municipality is at a different stage and has different needs. Some are at a place where the buildings or sustainability departments are really ready for sort of crash courses or mini trainings on codes or benchmarking or BPS. While some feel the need to focus more on public outreach and engagement first. Some would like to see draft or template policy language. Some would like to see more basic introductory fact sheets to circulate to decision makers or the public. So it's the one-on-one meetings can very much be tailored more than so the quarterly meetings. Next slide. So real quick, this is just an example of a BPS fact sheet here on the right that we have put together in the past. And then on the left there is just a list of other types of fact sheets that we've put together previously. So you can look through those in more detail after this meeting. Next slide. And then these are just some examples of some other technical assistance that can be offered through the ABEEP work group. So as you can tell, the list is pretty varied. We can help develop and disseminate town hall or public meeting presentations and support materials. We can give internal presentations on policy details. We can help with analyzing building stock or data to estimate savings. We can organize and facilitate what we call benchmarking data jams or workshops to provide hands-on assistance with benchmarking compliance. And we can develop more detailed policy guidance documents. Again, it's sort of whatever you feel is would be the most helpful for you, your municipality, and your residents. So ABEEP is just one program that I was going to talk about today to support advanced building energy policies. And next slide, please, Dan. The second newer program that is available is with our friends over at Clearly Energy. And the purpose is really to facilitate a regional effort to pass and support building energy policies, including benchmarking ordinances and building performance standards. So through this project, MIA has been tasked with forming a cohort of cities within Illinois to provide technical assistance related to policy development and implementation, and to, again, provide any resources that may be necessary for building owners, policymakers, et cetera. So as a cohort member, municipalities could receive things like legal and technical assistance to pass a benchmarking or building performance standard policy, added staffing and administrative capacity to implement the program or policy, access to public-facing resources that have been developed for building owners and stakeholders. These 2 points I feel like are really important and attractive to this program as well, but coordination with other local communities to sort of share best practices and align efforts. including possibly developing common metrics and goals across communities. Advice to best practices, or I should say advice and best practices from municipalities across the country who are coordinating similar efforts. So as you can see, this project includes a lot of other national partners as well. And then finally, access to this BEAM software platform, which stands for the Building Energy Analysis Manager. And this is a tool that I cannot speak highly enough about, but is there to really help implement and manage these types of programs and policies. And Carolyn, hopefully you can dive a little deeper into what that software can help with and what it entails. As the project title suggests, this cohort aims to also include those municipalities that are designated as small, rural, or containing Justice 40 tracts. And so coordination among all of the participating municipalities and access to those types of resources that I mentioned earlier would be facilitated by Mia as the cohort leader. We actually have an informational session planned on August 20th of this year, during which we will go over this project in more detail and gain feedback from any interested communities, talk about next steps for the cohort, how often we'll want to meet, things like that, what types of resources you all are interested in, things like that. It'll be a very good, informative initial meeting. And so if any of you are interested in that, please email me. I can drop my email address in the chat and I can get you added to the list. And with that being said, I think we have a few poll questions that we want to get to before passing it over to Carolyn.
Yes, I can launch those quick questions.
And
So,
I'll also say too, sorry, Cheryl, that, Dan and I have mentioned getting feedback a lot throughout, talking about these programs. There will be a survey sent out after this meeting where we can sort of learn a little bit more about each of your municipalities, get a pulse on your interest in these types of policies, what resources and assistance you're all most interested in, things like that. So please keep an eye out and please respond.
okay, yeah, and we'll be helping to send out the survey, and it looks like for those that are interested in the task force, we see that we do have some interest and some are already on the task force, and about 13% would like to talk with Slipstream and Mia before deciding, so we can help to set up those meetings so you can find out more information. And a few might need to think about it a little bit more, which is okay. So we'll go to the next quick poll, and once we just share those results. Yeah, and then we also just wanted to ask, are you interested in the building performance standards cohorts? Looks like we do have several people interested, so it's good everyone's taking advantage of all the resources that are out there to help your community. And we'll just give that a few seconds. And okay, and so yeah, it looks like we have about 38% are interested, and 8% would like to talk to Slipstream and Mia before deciding, and 38% are not sure. So we can provide information if that would help with your decision. Okay. So now that we've discussed all of these resources that are available to help your community, for inspiration, let's take a broader look across the nation to see what cities are participating in the BPS cohorts. Our next speaker is working closely with our ABEEP Task Force friends, and her organization developed the BEAM tool. Carolyn has over 18 years of experience providing direct technical assistance to states and communities as they seek to adopt energy policies, including benchmarking and BPS. She leads Clearly Energy's commercialization efforts and collaborates with stakeholders to develop cost-effective and cutting-edge solutions to tackle climate change. And as a fun fact, she's been skiing since she was 3. So I'll turn it over to Carolyn.
Thank you so much. It's so great to be here, and hopefully you can all see my, oh, wait a minute. I think you can see my map now. All right, so
Oh.
I'm not going to show you. Oh, can you see that
oh,
okay?
It looks like we lost the screen share, so if you wanted to
Oh.
start one more time.
Oh, wait a minute. I don't know if it was doing it right. Hold on one second. Well, let me just talk through it because I think without sharing my screen, hold on, you can't see my map. So, but just in the interest of time, so thank you so much for having me. I'm Carolyn Sarno-Goldthwaite, and Maddie shared the great project overview. So I'm with an organization called Clearly Energy. We're a small women-owned, oh, there it is. Thank you for pulling that up for me. I just wanted to show the map part because Maddie did a great job of capturing slide 2, which was the project in its entirety. And so Clearly Energy is a small women-owned business. We work on software, which doesn't sound so exciting, but if many of you were sitting and listening to the great presentations from the previous speakers, including Leslie, with Energy Star Portfolio Manager, what do you do with that data and how do you help it make informed policy decisions? How do you adopt and implement equitable policies, whether it's lead by example or whether it is a policy like building performance standards with the City of St. Louis that was mentioned previously. So Clearly Energy assembled a team, which includes the folks that you saw on the previous slide, to come together and work with the Department of Energy through funding to support jurisdictions. And so MIA is taking a look at not only supporting for our current budget period 1, there's 3 with this particular project, but supporting jurisdictions in Illinois, as well as some folks in Missouri, but across the country, their peers at the other RIOs are working across a regional cohort. So looking with all of the Southeast states. NEEP is looking at a regional cohort in Massachusetts and Rhode Island. We're leading one in Maryland. But basically what's important and what I want you to take away from this conversation, and probably I hope what you're getting from all of the speakers, is that there are resources to assist you, whether you're looking at lead by example or whether you're thinking about passing a building performance standards. We have resources from the U.S. Department of Energy through this award to help you with your policies. So I hope that folks will come and join us on August 20th so we can do a deeper dive on what the project looks like. And on our side, we have the BEAM platform, which is used by a couple of jurisdictions in the Chicagoland area, the Building Energy Analysis Manager, which is meant to help facilitate and streamline the implementation of data. It does not duplicate, but rather works in tandem with Energy Star Portfolio Manager, but it's taking that data, has a communication tool that you can work with your stakeholders if you're going to implement a policy or if you're trying to figure out where do I go with my data for my buildings? And so it was developed in a previous funded grant opportunity with the Department of Energy and is based on the SEED platform. So through this grant, if not only getting technical assistance, but if you're looking for a way to implement a policy, there's funding and support that we can use to help you, whether you use the SEED platform or through the BEAM platform. So that's the real short takeaway or the ask that we have for you today, is to join us on August 20th. And you're not alone. There is jurisdictions all across the country, states all across the country that are looking to implement these policies. And we're really here to help and support you. So please reach out to Maddie. And we hope to see you on August 20th to be part of the cohort. So thank you so much for having me today.
Thanks, Carolyn. And yeah, I echo that. Definitely, there's a lot of resources out there for communities. So if you have any questions about anything that you've heard today, please enter those in the chat and we could get to those in the next few minutes. But otherwise, I'll just add a few closing announcements. Well, again, I wanted to thank all of our speakers for just letting us know about all these resources that are available, which we'll be posting on our Environment Committee page this week. And there will be no virtual Environment Committee meeting next month in August, But we will have, our next meeting will be in September, and I'll put this information in the chat. This is a roundtable meeting where we'd like to hear about your sustainability successes and challenges. So if you'd like to speak about that, we'll give everyone up to 10 minutes and we'll put together an agenda for that in the coming month. So let us know if there's something that you think others might benefit from hearing about. And as one more announcement, we're planning a sustainability social for either Friday, August 16th or Friday, August 30th. And let me just also add that to the chat. So it'll be a celebration for the end of summer. We can meet some of the new sustainability professionals that have started this year. And we'll also have a potluck, and it'll be in a picnic shelter that's near a boat rental area. So we can rent paddle boats, canoes for those that are interested. And so for these upcoming meetings and for this social event, just let me know if you're interested and we can send you more details about that. So without seeing any questions in the chat, thanks again for all of our speakers who joined us today and thanks for everyone who was able to attend. So have a great rest of your day. Thanks. Bye.